Welcome to Monday, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is from Tāmaki Makaurau, Okilani, South Okilani. Originally from a place called 274, also known as the Promised Land, also known as the Home of the Brave, but better known to all of us as Otara, but now resides in Manadua, Ruahard.
Yes, sir.
The man is an amazing individual, young talent, young man who has a plethora of gifts in terms of voice. His voice in terms of he's on the airwaves, he's on your frequencies. He's one half of the My Home Run on My FM. And so here's an amazing story to share as well. But please put your hands together for the man himself, Deschanel Mai.
What an intro, man.
Awesome.
Felt so, man, it's an honor to be here also.
Oh, bro, it's our privilege also. It's an absolute pleasure. Obviously, because you're quite young, and I thought, man, just to set the ball rolling. And then you've always been on the radar also. I know it calls you Desh, and you're obviously people hear you on the radio, you're on the airwaves. But also, what sparked? And I think it needs to come from the horse's mouth in terms of what sparked the interest in radio, and what kind of got you like, hey man, I'm gonna try this out, or maybe I'm gonna give this a go.
It's a funny story how I got into radio. So Mum and Dad didn't want me to work straight out of high school. They wanted me to go to uni, the typical islander, the dream, because of course Mum and Dad did sacrifice moving from Samoa to New Zealand and for a better future. So working straight out of high school wasn't an option. So university was the only option, and I was actually bad in school, so my grades weren't up there. So I needed to find a different pathway to get into uni. And I found a certificate into communication studies. And the only reason why I thought communication studies, you're talking, that's me, solo, easy as I can do that. I talk all my life. So I signed up for it. I made it in, and I didn't realize that it's like a broad, it's a broad study. It's a broad field where you had to study film, journalism, radio was one of them. And so you had to pick and choose which one. And when I read all the descriptions, a lot of the subjects under the communications umbrella required like a lot of group work. So radio was the only one that had solo work. Like the whole time you were at uni, you never had group work. So I was like, oh man, that's me. I don't have to rely on anyone. So I signed up, and I didn't take it too serious. I was just like, just to make Mum and Dad happy, I'll sign up for radio. But unknowingly, like I've never actually told anyone this, but I think like just in the back of my mind, I grew up with radio. Like my nana, she's passed away now, but she'd always have a radio playing wherever she was. Like if you knew my nana's bedroom, 531 PI was playing, or Radio Samoa was playing in her room 24/7. So like if you go to do a fi'au for her, like you can hear the radio. And so whenever we were in the cars and stuff like that on our way to school, we'd listen to My FM, listen to radio. We sort of grew up around it, and so I think I low key gravitated to radio unknowingly though. Like I was like, I'm just doing this for fun. But it wasn't until like a few years later I was like, man, I think I grew up around radio. So I took the chance, I studied it, and then halfway through my studies I thought I'm not gonna sit around and just wait to graduate and then get a job. I gotta find some way to get my foot in the door, just to show that I'm keen. And thankfully enough, one of my usos who I met in uni, shout out to my uso Randy, who is now my co-host. Randy, he was working at My FM at the time, because he left uni early to go work at My FM. I hit him up. I was like, man, if there's any voluntary jobs, anything to do in terms of promos or whatever, if you can just put my name in, I'm keen to do it. And so Randy handed my name to management, got an interview for promotions, like doing all the free giveaways and stuff like that on the weekends. So I made my way in, did the promo job, and I guess the rest was history. I like sort of worked my way up. And I think it's been like 3 to 4 years now. I've been working at MediaWorks My FM, and just I think like the journey's just starting. But that's sort of the little spark. So shout out to my nana, man, like for playing the radio 24/7. I think unknowingly I've like just fallen into this blessing that I've got in front of me.
That's cool. So, it's interesting, Dish, is that people think, you just need to just rock up, you just need to have a nice voice, You know what you're talking about, you have to be good at just speaking, you go on radio. But I'm just I'm assuming because that's not the fact that it's a lot of work, a lot of work behind the scenes. People think, oh, I can just go on the radio and just as long as it's got a nice voice, then I can just jump on and just talk about anything. But tell us, what's the intricacies around radio and what you have to do behind the scenes? Because people think this is what they probably think versus what you actually know.
Bro, that's funny because when I first started in radio, I was one of those people. I was like, oh, man, I just have to sit on my ass and talk all day. It wasn't until I came across like the more experienced announcers who have earned their stripes, the likes of Nixon Clark, and that they put in the work and they sort of like showed us that radio is like a 24/7 gig. Like, although your mics are off from 7 p.m, when you leave the door, it's like content 24/7. Like whatever you do at home, you got to think, oh, is this content for the radio? Because at the end of the day, you're going to come the next day and you're going to have to bring it to the table and you're going to have to break it down and see if you can ask a question out of it, see if you can get people to relate to your story of yours. So your mind is working 24/7, but like you only have the 4 hours to present what you've sort of gathered at home or on your way to work. So it's like, I say it's easy, like, because I've worked in other fields, other jobs and stuff. I've done factory, I've done youth work, and yes, we do sit on our asses. So it is easy in that aspect in terms of physical, like you just sit there. But in terms of the mental way, sometimes it does take a toll. Your mind is challenged. You have like 2 minutes to get everything out there between songs. And you gotta like hit it on the money, or else you just end up fobbing out or something like I've done it a lot on the show. Like I always fob out, but that's because under pressure I'm not so good. And so when I'm trying to read something, I'm like, damn, all these words are all over the place. So your mind is it's just constant, man. Like on the weekends, your mind is still working. Like, oh, is this content? Am I gonna bring this to the show? So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, to be honest.
But it sounds like I know you've been there. You said 4 years. Obviously, you say, I don't know, would it be fair to say you're still kind of earning your stripe in terms of trying to just learning and just
100%, man. Like I think like I'm still like I always have this mindset when I walk through the door. Sometimes I've fallen off the wagon, but I've always tried to keep this in my mind as whenever I walk into the door, I'm going to try my best to learn something that day. Whatever show we have, either it's a Monday show or Friday show, I'm going to make sure that that's going to be the best show I'll ever make. Only because like our chairs aren't promised, our mics aren't promised. Like there's going to be a day where someone's going to turn around and be like, sorry, brother, we're not going to renew your contract. Get out. You got to make the most of the opportunity, and you got to sort of like, I guess, my mindset is always, I got to show what I've got. Like, I want to be the best announcer there ever was. I want to be remembered. And so every single day I walk through the doors, I'm going to make sure I'm going to give it my all and like give my 100% in a way and just learn, like, whether it's learning something for the show or anything to do with life. Like everyone that works for My FM, everyone that I've come across, they've gone through life and I'm still going through life. So if I can pick a thing up or two from them, then man, that's a pretty mean thing to get before I leave this thing called radio, I guess.
Man, that's awesome. Also, because how old are you now, Dish?
25, eh? 25. I act like I'm 19.
Bro, no, man. Listen, you're 25. You're on the radio. You've been doing it for 4 years. You're on the airwaves, and people know who you are. And you're making a name for yourself, obviously on the radio. But also, and I like you. Just your train of thought. You were saying, you're not guaranteed a spot. If you go into the radio station, and if you don't do well, they might say, hey, listen, I might just have to. We're not going to renew your contract. And so you're doing all this stuff, and you're still young, man. You're young. You're 25 years old, and so you mentioned mental health. Because I can imagine they can play a big part in terms of, okay, if I don't get the content right, if this is the wrong content, if I bomb, if I fob out, all those kind of things can affect how you present and how you kind of talk on the radio. Have there been, maybe you can give us some instances where you were in the right frame of mind, or some of the challenges that you've faced whilst being on radio, especially more so the mental side of things.
Man, that's a funny one, eh? Just mentioning my age, I'm 25. And I think there's this idea, us as Samoan kids, we got to give back to our parents. We got to, like reward them for the sacrifices they made for us. And a lot of the time, I always think to myself, like, I'm 25, but I've got nothing to show for it. Like, although I'm on radio, I'm enjoying the experience and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like I haven't. The way to say this. At the end of the day, I haven't like been financially stable. Because man, like the truth is, man, like money isn't everything nowadays, eh? And that's the truth, man. Like us as a Samoan community, money's a big deal in terms of helping with the family. So I have this idea, like I'm living this dream. I'm on radio. It's the easiest job in the world. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. But there's times when I question, like, man, like, when do I call it quits on the dream? Because it's my dream isn't rewarding the family, like, in terms of financial stability. And that's not on anyone in the business. It's just life, man. Times are tough and stuff like that. So I always have that idea of like, there comes a time where you're gonna have to call it quits and be realistic with yourself. And I've always been a realistic thinker. Eh? And that's because my family's my main motivator. And so I find it's hard to enjoy the dream I'm living right now when I know my mum and dad aren't enjoying the life that they're in right. Like they enjoy it. They're grateful. They're hard. They're strong in their faith. But in terms of bills, in terms of, the reality of life, mum and dad, it's tough. Having a big family, man. And so I feel like, man, I'm 25. I've got nothing to show for. I don't have a house. My mum and dad don't have a house. My mum and dad aren't retired. They're still having to work. But I'm living this dream. I'm getting to wake up every morning and enjoy what I do. But I enjoy it. But I can never enjoy it 100% because I know my family's not enjoying what they're doing. Dad having to still wake up early hours of the morning, work hard. Mom having to wake up early hours of the morning, work hard, and then figuring out what are we gonna like do around in terms of like the bills and stuff like that. So it does get hard. Enjoying the journey, and that's where like the mental battles come in. I go in, and like radio is a job where I guess you have to be happy 24/7, man. Because when you're not happy 24/7, people will look at you and be like, why should you complain? You're on radio. You sit on your ass for 4 hours and just talk. Like, what's so hard about your life? But when you figure out that there's money involved, and that's like no hate to anyone, like it's a business, man. I never have the mindset of blaming the business for the business. Like I'm always like, man, times are tough. They can't offer you all their money. They can't give you what you want. They can't give you what you need. You just got to live with it. And so people do expect us to enjoy it, but at the same time, man, we have our own battles at home. And so I go into work and that's my mental battle. Like not every day, like now and then there'll be probably like a 3-month stint where I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying it. I'm blessed. But then there'll be some times when I go into work like, man, like times are tough at home, but I can't show that here at work because I need to be happy. I need to be grateful for the opportunity I'm given. I can't come in here and complain about life struggles when all I have to do is turn on a mic and sit and just talk for the whole day. It's like, what do I have to complain about? So yeah, sorry to answer your question. That's about the mental health,
man, also, man,
mental challenge.
Yeah.
Holy,
bro, also, man, Deschanel, no, I appreciate it also. Obviously, I know that your family means a lot to you, obviously, through those tears. And I was just wondering also because for your age, you said that, I think that's quite profound and it's quite wise also that you come on. It's not too many people as young as you are can come in, okay, I'm not feeling too good. Mentally, I'm not in a good frame of mind. I'm just going to go back home now. But you saying, hey, I need to switch on. I need to flick that switch. Even if I'm not feeling good and not having a good day with all these issues at home, I need to flick that switch and still turn up. What do you think in terms of, because I like that. I think in terms of as young as you are, that not too many. I'm just assuming that maybe there's not too many people, or not just men, but people in general. Like, man, if I don't like this, I'm just gonna just go and do whatever. because it's just a bit too hard. Where does that come from? Where does that kind of, obviously the work ethic is there, but where does that mindset come from? There has to come from someone. Or has there been taught? Has there been something that you've seen, or has it been instilled in you to show up even in the midst of adversity?
So, as my parents say, mom and dad, they don't like verbally teach us. They do it through action. Mom and dad can be very tired, stressed out. But 3 a.m. in the morning, I always hear my dad's car turn on. Like 3 a.m. in the morning, I always hear it turn on. And so I always have that mindset of like, man, like I shouldn't be out here crying about my life struggles when my dad is having to stand at a factory job for 12 hours a day, early hours of the morning in the cold. At 3 a.m. in the morning, I should have that mindset, you know. He's come from Samoa, working in a place that he's not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of New Zealand, but he does it for his family. And so I've always had the mindset of, man, you know, no matter how tough it gets, you gotta just, people say roll with the punches, but not so much roll with the punches. It's more so keep it to yourself for the time being. Like you can vent to someone, but when there's a job to be done and you need to provide for your family, I guess that mindset kicks in of, man, I just got to get through this day. Tomorrow's another day. I'll deal with it tomorrow, or I'll deal with it on the weekend. But for now, I need to work. I need to provide for the family. I got to earn the money. There's no time to be, in this day and age, there's no time to take time off to cry about the life struggles. Because everyone's struggling at the end of the day. Like, although I'm out here, I'm talking about like my mom and dad have struggled, my family struggles, but I know there's people doing worse. I know there's people who don't have beds, who don't have heaters, you know. So I always feel like there are times where I feel like I don't have the right to complain. Like I'm blessed enough. Like I'm grateful. I'm in a way privileged to have a car, man. Like, you know, so that's always the mindset, is just be grateful for what I've got for the time being, and, you know, one day it will work out, and that's a day to look forward to, man.
Yeah, man, almost. Bro, man, I think I'm always astounded by a lot of men that come on and regardless of the age, there always seems to be a common theme for someone who strives, who's got goals, who's passionate about life. There's always been something in terms of the mindset. There's something strong about the mindset of a lot of these men and some of the wahine that come on. Also, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's probably listening or probably watching, like, man, I'm kind of stuck in a rut. Things are not panning out. Things are not going good, and they're like, oh man, you know what? I just don't care. I won't show up. I just won't rock up because of whatever, because of life circumstances. What kind of advice could you give to someone who's quite young, or anyone in general, in terms of when they need to show up, but they don't show up? What kind of advice could you give?
It's a tough one, because I know everyone will have their own advice, and I think a lot of people have given out advice in terms of that sort of stuff. But this is my own piece of advice. It's just, you know, there's a war going on. Like there's people fighting worse battles, man. Like you might be complaining about your Wi-Fi cut out, or like you might complaining about the power bill and stuff. But some people can't even stress about power bill because they don't have a home. Like, and that's my own thought though. And at the same time, it's just, I guess, surround yourself with people that are like-minded. So surround yourself, like, as an example, like me and my group of friends, we all struggled together. We all sort of walk the same story. Like we all have the same story to tell. But as time has gone on, we're all like 25, 26 now. I see all my usos, they've all like moved on to provide for their families, and they're nurses, professional rugby players, they're teachers, and that's a beautiful thing. And that's because when I look at them, I'm like, man, you know, I know my usos can do it, I can do it. And so when you surround yourself around people that inspire you, you will be inspired. And you may think like times are tough, but when you see one of your friends like moving up on the road, you'll know like, man, I started at the same start line. My race may be a bit slower, but I'm gonna get there one day. And bro, just look forward to it. Like it is tough it's hard to talk on that sort of stuff for me, because I'm always like, man, like I feel like I have no right, you know, like I'm privileged enough. Like I have food. I have my family around me, and that's enough for me. I have a bed to sleep on. And so whenever people say, man, what's your thoughts on that? I'm like, it's hard because I feel like, man, like who am I to give advice on that stuff when I've always had shoes to go to school, and like I always have like a bed to sleep on. Like I don't really have like although I say, like I've said before, I've got struggles, but people are doing it tough. Yeah.
It's cool, man. Nice. Yeah, I appreciate it also. So I'm just assuming you have a good network of support. You have a good circle.
100%.
Is it a big because some people like have like a big support network or system. But what was it for you? Is it quite a small, intimate kind of group that you mentioned that hey, your friends are doing some good stuff. They're successful in their own right. What's your obviously that's quite important. But is your circle quite big or is it quite a small, intimate one? I'm
a bit of a social butterfly, so I've got a few of my mates. Of course, I've got my usos from De La Salle, like La Salle College, who have we've all grown up together. We went through high school together. But then I've also met a few of my probably some lifelong friends as well. I've met through uni, and just the way we sort of bonded in uni is just we all had the same struggle at home. We were coming to uni, trying to focus on studies, but at the same time trying to focus on where am I going to find a job so I can help provide for the family, and just through that we sort of bonded. So I guess it's a big circle, but it's a good big circle.
Well, this is good. Hey, you mentioned the school. I don't know, this infamous school. You mentioned the school. You mentioned DLS, De La Salle. So tell us, bro. Tell us. The obviously the upbringing in De La Salle and some of the fond memories you've had of that infamous school of De La Salle.
Man, this one's a all good one because you obviously understand the Brotherhood, but it's always hard to help other people understand about the Brotherhood, those who haven't walked through those gates. I think a prime example is just of the Brotherhood that we always talk about is you can buy a big bin pie, which is probably like that size, just a big bin pie that size. And off that big bin pie, I'd say a solid 8 people can eat from it. Eight of those.
They still do that.
They still do that, man. Like if you think about it, at the local dairy, shout out to Rosella Dairy, you buy a big bin pie for $1.30 back in when I was in school, and then you buy a Stars drink, which is like a 1 liter bottle of no good stuff, and you share it amongst the usos. Probably 12 of the usos will all like share that little piece, and it's only a $2.30 meal, and all the usos will I guess be maonga from it, be full from it, and that's always my example of the Brotherhood is just sharing of the food. Like people may think like, oh man, that's food, like that's weird, but in my head I've come into these spaces in the so-called corporate world where I'm big on sharing. Like I remember I went out with some of my usos from work the other day, and I bought like 2 pizzas, and I was like, boys, go hard on the pizzas. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, do you want a slice of my pizza? I'm like, nah, like it's sharing, man. Like, I guess if everyone in the world could just share, we would have a really good world. If everyone could be like La Salle, nah.
Amen.
Nah, it's all about the Brotherhood and just the lifelong friends that you make. I was always I guess a keep to myself kid. But when I entered the gates of La Salle, I sort of saw the beauty in making brothers who weren't of blood, just brothers through the crest. And it's a beautiful thing when you represent your school as well, man. I know a lot of the usos who used to come to school, they used to come to school and that was sort of their escape from whatever was going on outside of school. And I used to respect that, man. I was like, man, like you may be like acting up in class, but like I already know you got stuff going on, but if you feel like La Salle is a safe place for you, then so be it, man. If they've created that environment for you, then that's a beautiful thing. Like, we should celebrate that,
It's cool, man. You're right. You're absolutely right. But obviously, and I know, and you already know this, Dish, that, man, the Brotherhood. People always talk about the Brotherhood. Oh, man, La Salle, what is this? Hey, what do you guys always wear? Your De La Salle and your emblems and your jumpers and your hoodies or your hats and your shorts. And I got a brother-in-law, he's La Salle as well. And so he's always wearing his La Salle gears and everything. Hey, man, what do you have a spare change of clothes?
That's us,
just
man.
De La Salle. And so obviously the Brotherhood, because I think it's something special that we have in our school, De La Salle. I'm old school La Salle boy and Charles. But do you think, because in this day and age, obviously for us, Brotherhood is very important. what do you see in terms of our men out there in terms of brotherhood? Is brotherhood, is there something is there a bond that's still present in this day and age, or besides excluding ourselves, but is there a bond that you kind of see out there that men are still kind of bonding and still have that brotherhood strong, or do you see something that's kind of slowly diminished?
Oh, I feel like it's still around in this day and age. Like I know some people may call it toxic, just being out with the boys, but I think what some people don't understand is like, although we're still learning to talk to each other, but just being around each other and just, I guess, just having a few beers now and then just to and laugh about some sports game, that's enough for also to de-stress. When you're watching the All Blacks having a few and then go home, that's enough for them to flush out any of the worries they had throughout the week and then just restart on Monday. So I guess that's like sort of how the brotherhood's been painted out in the world, outside of La Salle. So it's sort of still around, but it's not a toxic thing at the same time as well. So yeah, I guess it's still around.
Yeah, no, it is. I hope so, because I think obviously a lot of men in this day and age, there's a lot of worries, a lot of things that we have to kind of go through, a lot of stresses and a lot of trauma, a lot of in terms of stress, like in terms of provision and family, all that kind of stuff. And I think it is. You're absolutely right. Also, there's a need. I think there's a need for brotherhood, for men to kind of iron sharpen iron. I got a brother. He's from another last our boy, Seal, old school man, Seal Alomatia. He does the brothers keepers. He's last house. So the whole premise is around iron sharpen iron. And I don't know. I tend to worry, like, man, hopefully that for my son or whoever the younger boys, that brotherhood as men is still prevalent, that we still keep it together, but also there's a place where they can just share and just be themselves. But also the hope is that if you're going through some hard times, we're able to share. And so also in terms of personal growth, obviously you're on the Mai FM. And so I'm thinking, what do you think? What are some of the next steps that you have in mind or you envision? Okay, this is the radio side, but I do something outside of radio. Is there anything else outside that you do?
That's actually a good question, because before radio I was a youth worker and a uni student. At the same time I was working part-time. One thing I am big on is the youth. Although I haven't had the chance to, I've gone back and worked as a youth worker now and then while working at Mai FM, but I haven't had the chance to fully sit down and I guess plan out what exactly I want to do to help the youth, because I feel like there's a massive gap there. Like there's a lot that needs to be done, because I've worked on the floor and I've heard stories of all the kids, and the kids I used to work with were kids who were offenders. They did some bad things, and I sort of heard the stories of why they did what they did. And so from there I sort of like, I've always had this on the back of my mind, like, man, when I get the opportunity to one day, my goal is to help the youth of my community, just to show them that there's more to life than cars and fancy things, and there's more to life than being angry at the world for where you are in life. So that's one thing that I've always had on my mind. I haven't had the chance to fully plan it and like think about it and stuff, because I've been busy, caught up on life, my own struggles. But one day that is the goal, is to just sit down, plan exactly what I want to do to help the youth, because the youth that I got to work with, a lot of them had a lot of potential, man. Like a lot of them, they were good with cars, they were good with carpentry, but they just never had the opportunity to. And like people think you just chuck them into like into a course and they'll be all good, but it's more than that. It's like you gotta like sit down and really talk to them and just understand why they get angry at this, why they don't like that, why they do that. Like you gotta really sit down and just think and just I guess ask them questions of what exactly it is they need to help them, because there's a lot to unpack with the youth there. Like people think like, man, these kids are just doing ram raids for the fun of it, but when you actually meet a kid who's done a ram raid and you talk to them, half of them don't even know why they did what they did. Like if you ask them, why did you do the ram raid? They're like, I don't know, I was just bored. And then you're like, man, if you're bored, tell us, like, we can help you, like, we can help them get into something that will stray away from doing all that stuff. So if I do get the opportunity to, after radio or even while I'm still in radio, that's the goal, is to work with the youth, and at the same time, I guess, like, show the youth that there are other jobs from like radio, for example. Like, bro, like, man, that's one thing I've always thought of, is like, me being a Samoan kid from South Auckland, like, bro, like, you don't really hear about radio, but that's because we don't strive for it, you know. But you can pull up any kid from the street, man, chuck him behind the mic, bro. He's got stories for days. He can talk on the radio. You just need to give them that avenue to go towards it. So just stuff like that is just helping the youth find their way of life, I guess.
That's cool. So man, I can tell you're quite passionate about the youth as well.
Yeah.
So are you saying that youth work was kind of like the first stepping stone for you? Was it something that you did obviously before radio? Was it something that you... And so where's that stem from? Because I know a lot of people like the youth work, and people are like, I want to help people and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. But why? Was it because were you one of those youth that kind of like went astray, or just did whatever, and you kind of like someone else kind of came alongside you under their wing and kind of encouraged you to stay in the narrow and straight path?
Nah, it was more so it goes back to the people I surrounded myself with. So some of my usos that I met through uni were studying criminology, and a lot of them, for their placements, they did youth work. And so at the time I was looking for a job, and I had been a youth leader, I had been a mentor at uni, and so when they had jobs available at their placements, they let me know, and oh man, you should come and work with the youth there, like the troubled youth. So I went along, I signed up, and I didn't know exactly what I was going into, but when I got there and I started working with the youth, I sort of just like stepped back, and I was like, oh wow, this is pretty full on, it's overwhelming. And so from there, I probably spent like 3 years as a youth worker working with troubled youth. So it was all through those. So it was just, you know, when you need a job, you're going to go work it. But at the time, I thought, oh man, I'll just do a 1 year stint. I just need the money, quick cash. But then when I did my first year, I was like, man, I think I really need to be here to help the youth, man, because I was near their age. I was sort of like similar, like I sort of knew what exactly was going on and stuff. So I thought, man, I could probably spend a while here helping them. So spent 4 years, man. So all of that stemmed from just my mates that, like I said before, like, you know, the people you surround yourself with, just my mates studying that field, and I sort of fell in love with the helping the youth there.
It's cool, man. So when did you fussy any of the...
Man, nah. There were times they test you. They definitely test you, but that's where you That's a lot of the La Salle usos are actually youth workers, and that's where we learn to use our words. You know, us as islanders, we don't really know how to use the words in those heated moments, but just working that field, you learn, your patience grows, man. Like, I got a lot of patience now. Like, when people try and test me, I'm like, nah, I'm all right. I've seen worse.
It's interesting, obviously, the youth, because my FM is obviously there's a younger population in terms of listeners, and obviously your Pacific flair of you being Samoan. And so, what do you think? What is it about my FM, and what do you bring to the table in terms of making it your own, or bringing some sort of element that's specifically and originally Desh that makes people like, oh man, I need to listen to this guy, or there's something special about this guy when he's on the radio.
Oh man, I ask myself that every day. It's like I wonder, like, man, like, what do I add to this roster? Because we got amazing announcers who have earned their stripes. The way I made it into the My Home Run was Randy just turned around one day and said, "Soli, do you want to jump on the show with me?" And I just jumped on, and the rest was history. And so I've always wondered, like, what is my purpose on radio? I guess what I do there is what I want to bring to the table, and what I want to show people is just a different side of South Auckland on a big platform. To be honest, there's been times when I've seen not a lot of people, but I've seen some people, like, they've sort of painted that picture of South Auckland being a real rough and rugged place, like it's a dark place to grow up in. But I just want to highlight that it's not like that, eh? Like, you got to acknowledge that there was a lot of support in my community for me to get to where I am today. And so if I can highlight that through the content that I push out onto the radio, then I'll take that. Like, if I can just show people that, man, it's fun. Like, growing up in South Auckland, man, it's fun. Like, people may say, like, oh, you're from the struggle area, low socio-economic area. Like, nah, like, you sort of learn to just be one with your community. You sort of learn that all the support and stuff, they push you to be in those areas. And so if I can just highlight that, acknowledge how great South Auckland is, acknowledge how great the Samoan culture is, acknowledge all the support that I've had, like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes some people in the office, when they look at me, they're like, oh man, you must have had it rough growing up. Like, no. Oh man, I'm blessed to have grown up in a family that support me. So if I can tell that side of that sort of story, I can push that narrative, then I'll take it, man. That's sort of what I want to take to Mai FM. That's sort of what I want to depict on that big platform. I want people to see that, man, we got a lot of support. We're very blessed. We're not all like wannabe gangsters. We don't try get into fights and stuff like that. I was never in fights. I grew up in church. I went to school, although I was naughty in school, but my parents still supported me to go to uni. I got a lot of support from the South Auckland community to get to where I am today. So if I can just get on the mic and backtrack and tell that story backwards, just like so I can bring that to light, then man, I'll take that. That's something that I wanna push onto that platform.
Yeah, manos. And I think it does. I think you and Randy do a great job. And I think if you're on radio and you're talking, there has to be a connection there. There has to be a connection. There has to be relatable. And so I'm wondering for you and Randy, or more so for you also, in terms of the being relatable, obviously in South Auckland. And, I used to, growing up, my film was kind of more of the, obviously hip-hop and the R&B. And I love that our tangata whenua, our Māori brothers and sisters were heavily involved. But it seems like there's a lot of PI influence in it and now. In terms of the connection and being relatable, how do you stay on your toes? How do you keep on your toes and say, man, I need to make sure that I'm always relatable, that my people are listening to this message, but it's still the same message, but a positive message?
I think it's just remembering where you're from and just staying true to yourself. Not trying to change your character, just like if you hear me now on the radio, and if you were to go back probably like 5 years ago, that's the same me. I've always been the same. Like I always check myself. I always make sure, like, at the end of the day, I always, like, when I'm driving home, I'm like, man, I hope I'm not a diva. I hope I'm not trying to be a celebrity. Like, I'm on radio, but I hope I'm not being a diva. So I always try and stay true to myself. Like, I don't buy all this designer stuff. I don't eat at fancy restaurants. I just, I'm good with a pie and a drink. Like, so I still try and stay true to who I am. I still surround myself with the people that I came up with. And so just by doing that, when I get onto radio, I give off my authentic self in hopes to impact those, like, because I still gym in Manurewa, Southmore City Fitness, and every time I come across a listener now and then, they're always like, man, like, it's buzzing that you're gymming here. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not going to go all the way to Ponsonby to gym, man. I live just 10 minutes away, brother. I'm not going to try and, like, change up now. Like, although I'm on radio, I still gym here. I still hang out with people in my area. I still hang out with all the boys. So just staying true to yourself can help you stay relatable. But as soon as you try and change and put on this persona on radio, man, you'll sort of get lost. And we're always taught in radio that listeners can pick up bullshit from a mile away. Good. So if you're faking on air, people are gonna know, and people are just gonna automatically tune out. But if you just stay true, stay real, talk about real stuff, like talk about your dad growling you off, talk about going to church on a Sunday, people will relate, because that's a true story. You don't have to say, oh man, I was up at the Sky Tower just a minute ago. Well, like, no one cares, because not everyone's up at the Sky Tower. So it's like, just be real, and everything will fall into place. I think authenticity is a big aspect in radio.
Because what car do you drive also?
Just a little Nissan.
Thank you. What colour was it? Was the colour the Nissan? What colour?
The red one.
Yeah, 'cause I think I saw you drove past. I was like, hey, Dish.
No, I'm like, I actually need new tires for my car.
Hey, Dish. Look at me, you pissing. You pissing.
I still need new tires. I need to clean my car. Damn it.
Oh, man, shuttles. But you're right. What you said, just being authentic and staying true to who you are. How important is that also? How important? Because I think a lot of men more so need to hear that. How important is it just to be yourself in this day and age? Because I know some people, like you said, people can change or switch it up and say, oh man, but you said it yourself, man, you're on the radio or wherever, it doesn't have to be radio, they smell bullshit. And so how important, why is it important to just be your authentic self?
I think speaking of the industry in itself, I haven't been in it long enough, but I see those who are authentic with who they are, who have never changed since the day they jumped on the mic. They've come in, they've sort of had a long career in radio, and I sort of draw from that and see that, they're staying true to themselves. They're not trying to fake it, and so by doing that, people love them for who they are. It's sort of like that. This is a bad example, but in the playground at school, when there's a kid that tries to one up your stories, like, oh yeah, I have that game too. Oh, I have a PS5. Those are the kids that you're like, oh man, we don't want to hang out with that guy anymore. He's telling too many fibs. So that's sort of, if you just stay true to who you are, people will just love you for who you are. And by doing that as well, you won't get, I guess you won't get as much hate. Like when you're true to yourself, people will just be like, oh yeah, that's them. Like, yeah, they're like that. That's all right. We'll just let them be because they're just like that. But if you're like trying your hardest to be like controversial when you're not, that's when people are like, oh, what the hell? Who are you? Like, why are you trying to do that? And at the same time as well, obviously, if your family just smells your bullshit from a mile away, then you won't have anyone to fall back on, like when you're left with nothing, and because you've been too fake and stuff, you slowly lose those that you love because you're switching up on them. So if you just stay true, you'll keep the ones you love, and you will also, people from the outside will gravitate towards you because they see that you're pure at heart and you're just an authentic guy. So I guess, but at times, like, I've come into work and I'll admit I've been a diva now and then, like, been complaining and stuff and chucking a tantrum, but I always check myself in the car.
That's cool. So, hey, you mentioned something. You mentioned controversy. Obviously, and you don't need me to tell you what's been happening on the...
I knew it.
Nah. You need me to bring it up. But I wasn't thinking of bringing it up. I was like, oh. But you mentioned controversy. So, oh. What are your thoughts? Because I know people can be quite controversial.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why? What are your honest thoughts and opinions around why is it that some people like to put up snippets or shorts or even the clips of controversy and obviously one that's just happened. But what are your thoughts in terms of those kind of content?
Oh, I think it's just I'm not big on social media because I'm still learning the game, but what I have seen from probably the last few years is that controversy gets all the likes and gets all the viewership because it gets shared around. So a lot of people do try and like say something hot topic and like say it quick and just try and get people to like bite on it, and from there they get all the views and stuff like that. But I have this thought, like, if you're gonna be controversial, I think you gotta make sure that people know who you are. Like, you gotta be well established before you go and be all controversial and stuff. Because if you come out of nowhere and you're controversial, then people just know you for that and be like, oh, you, that's that guy that said that thing. Yuck, I didn't like him. Whereas then if you're well established before and you say something off the mark, people are gonna be like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't have said that, and then they'll just brush it off type of thing, But yeah, it's a tough one, because I'm scared to say controversial stuff. I'm like, man, like, I don't have the right to say that. I'm not gonna come out on radio and say that sort of stuff because people are just gonna rip me to shreds.
Wow. I'm just thinking, have there been instances where you felt like, man, I want to share something, but like, oh, I can't share this just in case it might be a bit controversial, and so you just end up like, nah, I'll just hold back. Has there been something like that where you feel like I want to say something, but something that not for the sake of just being controversial, just for like just a difference of opinion, but also because you're like, oh no, I really believe this is what's actually happening.
Oh, a lot of sometimes I do have that thought, but I can, from the top of my mind, I can't really think of what it was. But there's been times like, can I just say what happened earlier this week with that video?
Girls.
Because I sort of see where the sis was coming from with that message, and not gonna lie, there's been times where I've wanted to say that, because that's the honest truth. The message that the sis was trying to say, I guess, was around the whole point of, if you're gonna represent your culture, represent it 100% of the way. If she just said that would have been sicky, that would have been fine. And at times I do feel like I want to say that. I see that in terms of the Samoan culture, for example, people are quick to parade their flags around when there's a rugby league game on. But when it comes to a whalawe, they go missing. And so if you're gonna parade on the streets of Mangere with your flag, make sure to be the first one to pick up the call when your dad calls to ask for kupe for a whalawe. That's sort of what I've always wanted to say and stuff like that. But I've always held my tongue, because I always think, man, like I don't want to come out here and just be all, oh wow, look at this guy trying to be all high and mighty. So I sort of just keep it to myself. A lot of my thoughts and my own opinions, I always make sure to keep it to myself, because social media is a crazy game, man. Like if you say something, it's up there forever. Like it's not going down. So I do see where that messaging did come from. That's the only part I took from it. Like, or the only part I did agree with. There were other things that I'm not going to say anything about that, but that messaging of just, if you're going to represent the culture, go 100% of the way. Don't just represent it for the rugby league, for the flags, the music and stuff like that, Polyfest. Make sure that you're going to be there when there's fe'aus to be done. Make sure you're going to be there when there's whalawe going on. Just celebrate the culture. Take the good and the bad. Don't just take the glitz and the glamour. You got to take the nitty gritty of the culture as well, because there is a lot in the Samoan culture that I guess people that aren't of the Samoan culture don't see. There are a lot of like things to do with ainga, that's our values at the end of the day. So if you're gonna represent the culture, again, man, make sure you take 100%. Don't just take the 1% and leave the 90% out of it, because that's what our culture is built on. Like I know some people my age, they sort of have this idea of when they get old, they're gonna break the cycle of giving back to the village, giving back to the whalawe. But man, if you're about it, if you're gonna represent Samoa, then don't break that cycle. Because if you think about it, your mom and dad, that's what they sort of got from their mom and dad, and so that's the culture in itself. Like, don't try and come out here and try and change the culture just because you feel like you shouldn't be giving that money to the whalawe. And people think that people that aren't of Samoan culture think that our parents just demand the money, like just go, oh, give me the money. That's not like that. Like mom and dads, I can't say all mom and dads, but a lot of mom and dads are always like, just give what you can give. We just need a bit just to help with, someone's died in the village. And that's just a sign of respect. It's a part of the culture. So if you're going to represent it, man, 100% of the way, don't just take the 10% or the 1%, take all of it. Because there's a lot to unpack with our culture, and it's a beautiful thing. People think that it's le muffs, and people think, man, that's too much money. Like, don't do that for Samoa. I just want to do a siva Samoa. Nah. Do all of it. Like, if you're gonna do your wedding for Siva Samoa, then let the Makais do a launga. Let the Makais do their whaleolongas and stuff like that. Just to celebrate all of it. We gotta show it off, man. We gotta be proud of it. We don't just be proud of the rugby team and the Siva. We gotta be proud of all of it.
Man. Well said also, man. What an interesting thought, because I like what you said. You said take the good and the bad. Obviously, you're right. You're right in terms of people like, oh man, I'll just take the good. I like the good parts, but I'll neglect. And I'm guilty of that sometimes as well. Also, I've been growing up like, hey, obviously New Zealand Samoan, but you want when mom and dad ask for love. He's like, oh man, he's like, how much is it? We how much like that? How much is it? Is it you must know. I feel what the heck? But you're right, and so in terms of the good and the bad. and I can guarantee you also some people might go, hey, well, yeah, but what if the Macais and what if the people in the village are misusing the money or the lovies and all that? Well, what do you say to those kind of people who might say, oh, it might be a valid point, but what do you think about that in terms of those guys who might give the money to lovies and then they abuse the funds?
That's for my own, and this is just for myself, and that's a tough one because that's human nature. Like that's what those people choose to do with the kupe is on them. Like if they've done that, if they've done you bad, then man, I'm sorry, I've got no answer for that. But my own thought is like, because I'm not big on, I don't talk about it much, but I'm big on karma. Like if you're gonna give it wholeheartedly, then once it's gone from your hands, once it's out of your possession, then you've given it wholeheartedly. You shouldn't think, oh man, but I gave that guy 500 just last week and he's buying that. But if you give it with a whole heart, you're sort of at peace with your decision, eh? Like if someone was to misuse it in the village, then man, you've given it wholeheartedly. And like at the end of the day, man, when we're 6 feet under, like we find out at the end of it what happened. We find out what our lives are done, and we're like all that money, all those belongings that you gave away, like bro, you'll find out what happens to that person that misused it later. Like you may not see it now, but something will happen. You can't control what goes on in their minds and stuff like that. But you just gotta give with your whole heart, give genuinely, and you'll be at peace. Like bro, like I'm big on that stuff because I guess like I'm big on my faith. Yeah. I'm a strong Catholic, so I always think like if I'm gonna give something, I don't really. It's just like a prime example is if a homeless man was around me and I give them $10, I don't really think afterwards like, oh man, he's gonna go buy smokes. I just give it because it's like if you're gonna give it. Don't give it with a string attached, trying to follow the trace of where it goes. Just give it and give it with your whole heart, and you'll be at peace.
Man, yeah, for your age, man, you were speaking some wisdom also. No, and I'm not just saying it because some people are like, but no, giving it. Yeah, because some people, you're right. So if I give the money, and I often think that way as well. In the past, I think, especially with the window wipers, and think, oh yeah, give them some coins or give them some money. And you think, well, and some people think, I don't give them any money because their money's going to go straight to or whatever they might use. Buy some cigarettes or drugs, whatever, and you kind of think that way. But you're right. I like how you said you just give the money because there's no strings attached. You're just giving it for the sake of giving it. You're a cheerful giver. You want to give it to that person, and you're right. In terms of obviously, if you give for Fight Love Lovies, and if they do misuse the funds and all that, the onus is on them. Like you said, you're being authentic. You're being true to who you are, but more so you're being true to the culture, obviously of Samoa. And then so if they do it. And I really believe what you're saying, that karma, it always comes back to bite them in the butt. And so, but I love it that you like, no, it's not because it's the principle here also. Yeah, man. It's the principle of, if I'm honest, at least I know I'm honest.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's on you. That's on you.
Focus on yourself. Yeah. At the end of the day, like,
it's good, man.
Don't look at what the other person's doing in their life. I think that's a big thing. Just if you focus on yourself wholeheartedly, then you will reap what you sow.
It's good. Yeah, that's good, man. And you look at them, why? Yeah,
see, that's why. That's why you're Olympic.
That's why your muck is kicking.
That's exactly why you have gout. I gave you the money for the foul, you love it. Damn it.
But that's good. But I like it. It's cool because obviously you said early on you've been you from Samoa, obviously in New Zealand, or and so you raised up in Samoa for several years.
I think when I was at the age of 5, my dad and mum moved me and my siblings to Samoa, just because that was just what they knew, and they were comfortable there. They had jobs lined up, and they could provide for us better there in terms of the opportunities. So we moved over, and we were raised there for a good 8 years. Yeah, so I was raised in Samoa for all my primary years. I did all my primary schooling in Samoa, and then it wasn't until 2011 my family moved back to New Zealand because I was diagnosed with rheumatic heart disease. Me and my little brother, rheumatic heart disease. So we came here obviously for the medical, because, like, let's be honest, like at the time when I was in Samoa, the health sector in Samoa was struggling, and so we moved here because we felt more safer here, and so we just. Yeah, since moving here in 2011, I've been here ever since. And yeah, I did my secondary school at La Salle and primary school in Samoa. So I've sort of lived both worlds. Yeah.
Man, but, so you must obviously you're privileged in terms of you know what it's like obviously the Samoa, and then growing up as a youngster, but then obviously you kind of like. I guess it's fair to say that you got the best of both worlds. You know, like the Samoa, and then also you live in New Zealand. You understand both worlds, obviously the Western and also the Samoa. So how do you navigate all that? How do you what do you do in terms of do you take it? Do you use it as to your advantage, or do you just like, man, I can see things. I can see things that predominantly other people who have been solely raised here, can't see.
Yeah, I definitely use it to my advantage. I don't know if there's a bad example, but when I entered uni, all through my essays, I sort of, I like to say, cracked the code. I figured that my story was very foreign to the markers. It was very foreign. So any essay I had, if the topic was social media or technology, I would implement my upbringing into that, talking about how I've seen the disadvantage of not having enough technology in Samoa, but then I've also seen the advantage of having technology in New Zealand. So I've sort of played that game of using my upbringing for that stuff, and also like in just in terms of being in big spaces in the so-called corporate world, I've also learned how to, like, I guess just show the respect to anyone. Like, you know, I always live by, like, if no matter who you come across, bro, like, you show them the respect, you show them the manners that they deserve. Like, they may be a cleaner, bro, you just show them the same amount of respect that you will show the CEO. So I've always had that mindset, and that's all from the culture, man. Like in Samoa, faloalo, respect is a big thing, and that was implemented into me like as soon as I entered Samoa. Like, you weren't allowed to walk past that outer without saying too low. You weren't allowed to like have your legs like dangling around without the ear. So respect was a big thing, and I've sort of carried that on into wherever I go. I've shown respect to whoever I come across, and in return they've sort of shown me the same respect. And just from doing that, I've built connections, I've networked, I've built bonds, and I met some amazing people who have sort of helped me along the way as well. So yeah, that's the sort of advantage I've used from just like, I guess, living both worlds.
That's cool. So you mentioned the corporate world also, and so I can imagine you kind of use those skills that you've obviously learned in Samoa, because I think there's something about the Samoans who are born in Samoa. There's a sense of confidence. I don't know. Maybe because they know who they are. They know who they are, even when they come here. And some of them, regardless of broken English, whatever. But there's a sense of confidence. And I think because they know the culture, they've been embedded in the culture, they're drenched in the culture, and so they know who they are. What do you see? Do you see this? Do you see something that's similar here in New Zealand in terms of those who are born here, or do you see like there's a bit of a lack of identity?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it's identity is a part of it. A lack of identity is a part of it, but at the same time, you'll see the difference with those who migrate from Samoa to come here for better opportunities. They're just grateful to be here, and so no matter what space you chuck them in, you best believe they're gonna make the most of that opportunity. And so they sort of leave those spaces with the tank empty, because they've sort of just full on just gone out there, made the most of it, networked and taken it and just soaked it all in. And just being grateful is enough for you to have a job well done. Like, just being grateful in those spaces will help you just work hard, show like the right work ethic. And so you see that in those who do move from Samoa. And in terms of some of us who grew up here in New Zealand, it's not that we're ungrateful, it's not that we're like spoiled, it's just sometimes we sort of get lost in this little bubble that we're in. And I hate to say this, sometimes there are a few that I have come across who feel like people owe them something, but in reality, man, like, no one owes you anything. You sort of have to go out there and just take what you're given and make the most of that opportunity, because very like sometimes people forget that we're not the only ones doing it tough in New Zealand, man. There's countries doing it way worse. So if you see a kid from Samoa who probably grew up on the plantation, he'll come here, bro, he'll treat a 2B5 book like gold. Like that's a prime example. It's like he'll treat a pencil in a paper like gold, and that's sort of the mindset that those who come from Samoa have when they come here, and that's why they excel and they do so well in those spaces. It's a lot of gratefulness there. It's just being grateful and humble. Just like does a lot to a person, to be honest.
Man, so I agree. I think not just Samoans, but other foreigners who come from different countries, even war zone countries, like people from the Middle East, and they come here. You're right. You're absolutely right. They're grateful to be here, and they thrive. They thrive because it's pretty much, for some people, it's like do or die. I'm just here. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do my best. The opportunities are there. Whereas sometimes, if we're raised there, sometimes we can just, we're kind of complacent.
Yeah,
it could be quite complacent.
Complacency.
Because we're used to that. Well, we're used to it, and sometimes even entitled for some of us. But yeah, I like that. I like that. And that's a paints a real good picture also. And I think you got the best of both worlds, man. And I can tell you're very grateful. I can tell you're very grateful with the learnings and opportunities that come your way. And so also, I need to ask you, because you're a young, strapping young man, handsome young man. So I'm asking also, man, what's any you have get a partner, or you got a because obviously on the radio there've been people messaging you.
Nah, I do have a partner. It's only just recently. I've probably I've met her, and she's an amazing woman. Sort of have the same values in life and stuff like that. So I think that's sort of why we sort of gravitated to each other. But to answer your question, there's someone very special in my life.
No, that's good also. I like that. What's that? What's that?
Nah, no one's hitting me up, man. DMs are empty, man. Holy.
Oh man, also, but there's just so many cool things that you're doing right now. I know, and I always get back to that. I always get back to some of these men that come on, and they always have the same mindset, or very similar mindset. But also just obviously the challenges. And you mentioned your family and your grandma. And I don't know, maybe we can just get back to, or just take it back to your grandma, because it seems like she was quite an instrumental part of your life and who you are. And so maybe you can just tell us the relationship between you and your grandma.
Man, so my nana, my mom's mom. A funny story. I was very spoiled from her. Me and my older brother, she spoiled us a lot, and it was because my nana was one of the first to migrate here to New Zealand. So she sort of saw what New Zealand had to offer, and I think from then on, she had it in her mind that she wanted her family to receive what New Zealand had to offer. And so by doing so, when my mum had me and my older brother and my siblings, my nana thought, she was going to spoil us and I guess just not let us see that life, the struggle life. But she played a big role in my life. In terms of, I guess just church. Church was a big thing to my nana. She raised us in the church. Raised us in the Catholic faith, and from then on I've fallen in love with the Catholic faith, and I'm a strong Catholic believer. But at the same time, she had this side of her where she knew how to, because she worked as an accountant, so she sort of knew how to I keep saying it, but deal with the corporate world. As little as just like when you go to a store and you go to place a big order, like buying furniture, you gotta have to know how to talk to a person. You gotta have to talk with some self-respect. You gotta she never said it, but I always had this mindset that Nana was teaching us to not take bullshit from anyone, to go out into the world and not be afraid of the person across from you. Like always have the confidence. Whether you're right or wrong, have this confidence in terms of dealing with people. So that's sort of something she taught us. And she sadly passed away back in 2018. But I always think of her. There's the story that she tells. She used to tell. Sorry, was when we were younger. We had a family called Ngai at a store. At a family friend's shop. The family friend had nephews that were my age with me and my brother's age, and so it was their store. They got to run in and out and grab whatever they wanted from their store. And so I, as a kid, innocent kid, I thought, oh man, I can do that. And I ran into the store with my brother, and we tried to grab some snacks. But as we were walking out, the shopkeeper stopped us, and they were like, hey, you guys have to pay for that. You're not allowed to do that. And fully just snatched it off us. And when they snatched it off us, my nana saw that, and my nana made a promise to herself that she was going to build a store where her nephews and nieces can come and grab whatever they wanted. And so she made it her goal to do that. She finally got to build her store. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to visit the store because I was in New Zealand at the time, but she built her store in Samoa. And my younger cousins, who were at the same age that I was when I first got caught with those snacks and snatched off me, they got to visit the store. And so she was so happy to see them walk into her store that she built with my grandpa, and she got to tell them, grab whatever you want. And she always told us that story. And that's sort of her character. Like, I think we're everything to her. And I think that's sort of how I've lived life. I've sort of just, in the back of my mind, although everything I'm doing is to give back to my family, but at the end of the day, sorry.
No, man, take your time, Moose. Man.
I think at the end of the day is making my nana proud is a big deal. Whether it's excelling in radio, or building my own shop, or just having a stable career and providing for my own little family. Because I know my nana, anything I would have done, she would have been proud of. So that's my drive, is to make her proud, provide for my mom and dad, and provide for I have my siblings, and hopefully one day if I have a little family of my own, provide for them. And so that's always in the back of my mind. One thing it is a sad thing that I think of now and then is she never got to hear me on radio. Radio was a big deal to her, but I know if she was alive today, my FM would be pumping in her room and in her car. Like, she would listen to like talkback radio Samoa, but I know damn well if she knew that I was on radio, my FM would be blasting. She wouldn't know the songs, but if she was to hear her grandkids, man, yeah, she'll be more than happy to listen there. So that's a bit of nana. There's a lot to, I guess I can sit here for days and talk about my nana, but I know we don't have time for that, but just know, man, she's a very important woman in my life. And same as all my elders, they play a big role in my life, but I think I was very close to my nana.
Man, mad love also. No, yeah, I think we can just kind of pause and just take some time, because it seems like obviously your grandma is an incredible lady, and I tell you what, also you come from good stock, man. It's for your grandma to say that and to tell you that story and say, hey, she witnessed that, and then have her own store, and which tells you what. There's just the ake, the strength, the inner strength, and the belief. You said you mentioned corporate several times, and so for you, maybe I'll ask in terms of the corporate world. So when you talk about corporate, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the meetings that you're having with these corporate people or folks, and so you said that your grandma was an accountant, and so I can imagine that you carry that strength, the inner strength, like your grandma, into these corporate events or corporate venues. And so can you tell us what do you mean by the corporate spaces that you're talking about?
I always I say that word a lot, but to me it's just a foreign place in terms of people who don't really understand where you come from. in terms of us as Pacifica people, and even just any foreigner, I hate to say it because people say it a lot. They always say the white man, but it's not just that. It's a lot more. It's deeper than that. It's just people who don't understand your story, and I guess just think that their way is the only way. And so I always have, and I don't have anything against them. I don't have anything like in the corporate world. I never like hold any grudges. I hate you because you're Palangi and you wear a suit and tie. It's not that. It's more so. It's just that because they don't understand where I come from, they don't really take the time to understand why we are the way we are in a way. So by just by that, I always think to myself, oh yeah, like this is a foreign space. It's a so-called corporate world in my eyes. So I've always like identified it as that. But it's not like, I know a lot of people say, oh man, like it's us against the white man. It's not that, man. It's deeper than that. There's a lot more to unpack. There's a lot more for people to understand. Like in that realm, it's a different ball game, man. We gotta stop saying it's the white man because there's a lot more, man. There's a lot more to unpack on that side of things. There's not just the white man in a suit and tie, man. There's a lot more to do.
That's good also. Because sometimes the most dangerous man is a brown man in a suit and tie.
So you'll never know, man.
Yeah,
could be your own mate or farmer.
Yeah, no, that's true. So yeah, I think you're right. I think you bring up a good point. People think corporate, this is the Palangi world, this is the Palangi game. But there's a lot of our people who do some amazing things in the corporate space, and so likewise, also it's just you being here and sharing your story, because I'm still trying to kind of grasp like, hey, this Desh, this is who he is. But man, what a wonderful story! Also, what a wonderful story. And so even though it's just been glimpses and snippets of your story here and there, but I do want to ask one more thing in terms of a legacy. And people, you mentioned your grandparents and your parents. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? What is it that you want to know people to remember you by, or this now, you who you are as a person?
Man, that's a big one. I want people to. This is, I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense, but I want people to remember me as my father's son. I want them to know damn well who my dad and my mom is, who my dad and mom are, and I also want them to remember like that I'm just an ordinary kid from South Auckland, Samoan, De La Salle College, Catholic. Like there's a lot of I guess there's a lot in me. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of things that I walk with. Everywhere I go, I take all my beliefs, all my values. So my school, my community, and my faith, and my family, and all of that. So when I want people to remember me, I want people to remember me, like I said, as my parents' child, and also as just as a real person. It's hard for me to talk like that because, like even now, like I still have that mindset. Like I'm no different. Like it's just radio, man. It's not really that deep when people talk about it. Like I'm like, man, it's just radio. But then again, like I do understand there are people who think like, nah, you're on radio, so like you are in the public eye, so you sort of have to have that story to tell. So if I was to be remembered, I want to be remembered of where I come from, what family I'm from, or my parents, and also just, I guess just in terms of radio, I have this mindset, man, I want to be one of the greatest presenters there ever were, like. Cause man, it's possible. Like, I know people might think it's a competitive industry, but man, like, you gotta, if you put in the work, you can be the greatest at whatever you do. Like, if you're not striving to be the greatest in the spaces you're in, then you shouldn't be there. Like, no matter what job it is, whether you're a youth worker or you work as a butcher, or as a baker, like, bro, like, why can't you be the greatest baker or the greatest butcher there ever was? Like, if you strive for that, man, you'll just start enjoying what you're doing, and you'll challenge yourself, and you'll learn, and you'll get more out of it, instead of staying complacent in where you are. Like, just strive for greatness, man. That's one big thing that I always hold, is always striving for greatness, and no matter what I do in life, it's just being the greatest there ever was.
Jeez, man, that's cool. I reckon that is cool, because it's unfortunate, Desh, that not everyone who goes into a job, or they might not necessarily like their job or enjoy their job, but then you have some who enjoy their job, but they're not thinking of, I want to be the best in this position, and not too many people have that kind of mindset, or just a few. And I always say, maybe just a few who kind of think, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it with the best of my ability. And thank you for that. I thank you for your honesty as well, to say, hey, I want to be the best. And there's no like, oh my gosh, we feel pukuri, we want to be the best. But you're right. I think we should be like striving, whatever position you're in, or whatever job you're in, you want to strive to be the best. And I love it that you said on the podcast, I want to be the best. Instead of going, oh no, just want to give it a go and see what happens, but you want to be the best, and I love that you bring that the energy in here, and not show away, because some people, you're trying to, obviously you already know the humility card,
it's a blessing and a curse.
It is, and obviously as Samoans, we want to be not subservient, but we want to be just kind of humble and all that. But I think there's a time and place there. So there's a time and place. But if you're in positions where our people need to thrive and to stand up, why not? Go with it. And it's got nothing to do with arrogance. I don't. And I tell you what, also, your personality and who you are as a person, and just in getting to know you, because I don't know you from, you don't know me from a bar of soap, but what I've gauged is that you're highly driven, you're a man of compassion, you're a man of passion, a man of faith who loves his family, but also a man of respect and integrity. And I think also, and I know it's because you're still young and your career is just beginning, which tells me that I'm in the midst of a young man who's going to do some incredible things. And so also I got the privilege, and obviously Kiona have the privilege to sit here with you and have a talanoa with you. So man,
thanks for having me.
And look out for what the future holds. But also, man, thank you so much, Jules.
Thanks again, man. It's an honor to be here, man. I don't know. I know a lot of us, we always think like, man, who are we to have the opportunity to tell our stories? Like, who wants to hear our story? But I think just by you guys giving me the opportunity to just let it all out on a platform like this, it's a big honor for me, man, and grateful for the opportunity. So thank you very much to you and the team also.
Man, also, we always have a gift. Every guest that comes on, we always do a gift. I do a caricature or a cartoon of how we envision our guest to be. And so, Desh, this is for you on behalf of the Mandate team.
Oh, man, I knew it's going to be the same size as my head right now.
That's for you, man. I appreciate it, man. It's for you. But is there anyone that you can think of, before we conclude, anyone you can think of that would be on the top of your head that would be ideal, be perfect to come on the podcast?
So it's also that I do respect a lot. He's really big in the Samoan community. Also, Neil Musuainga Neil Tapu. I don't know if you would know his father, Mr. Tapu from Macaulay High School. But he's a young New Zealand-born Samoan. But if you speak to those, he's like someone who was born and raised in Samoa. Just the way he carries himself and the way he represents the culture, that's one of those that I look up to in terms of and our culture, in terms of our own culture. I always look at the way he carries himself and the way he represents the culture, and I always like, man, like if that guy can do it and he wasn't even raised in Samoa, then I got no excuse.
Wow. I think I heard that name before. Also, was it? He hasn't done some stuff at MIT, has he?
Yeah. He's at MIT. Yeah. He's a tutor. He actually does free classes for level 4, and I think he's in level 5 as well for Samoa. So if you are like looking to learn about the language, man, he gives it out for free. Like, bro, like,
wow.
So hardly anyone does that nowadays. So he gives up his time to, and that's like the prime example of representing the culture 100%. It's just by doing those little things. Oh, not even a little thing. Doing those things. It's a big deal, man.
Man, I think I've seen him on. I think he was in Samoa. I'm not too sure what it was. But he was there representing. I can't remember. I think it was in Parliament or something.
Oh yeah, no, I think I remember. I sort of knew what was that for Fia Mea.
Yes, yeah.
So the also is well respected. He's a young also as well.
Wow.
Man. So he's done a lot in terms of for our community, the Samoan community. So I feel like that's one person that you would really want to pick his brain.
Neil, man, come. Is he like so as well?
Secret.
Neil, come on.
That's the only downfall.
Awesome, Neil. Now we'll hit you up also. But also, is there anything, we always give our guests the last words of encouragement. Any words for the viewers and the guests or the listeners, especially more so, man,
I feel like, if it's for those out there, I was just learning to talk. One big thing is, bro, don't be afraid to tell your brothers that you love them. Not your blood brothers, just your mates as well. I've only just learned earlier this year. I've only just learned to tell my best friend that I love him. He lives in Fiji for rugby, so I don't get to see him often. But I've only just learned to say I love you to those two, and I think that's a massive step there. Well, I know we're all still learning to talk about our feelings, but if you just say that I love you to your brother, it goes a long way, man. Like you'll never know when, you'll never know what happens in this world. A lot's going on, so just learn to talk and learn to say I love you to one another.
Yeah, man, I love also. Because usually we have the team here, and then we do our kind of mantra. We say refine, unlock, take charge. But because we're ourselves, what's our thing? What's our motto?
Fight the good fight.
Fight the good fight, and what's our bottom suitum inserte.
Yes, sir.
Fight the good fight. And so refine, unlock, take charge. Look for please press the subscribe button. We look forward to your well thought out comments. But I think once again also appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much. Yep.
I'm having dreams on so many places that I've never been, I've never seen, and I